Howdy Neighbors, and welcome back to Our Life. Last time we built some sandcastles and we had a long day. Let's go to growing up. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sound of the birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the row on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your moms had left the two of you along with Lizzie, to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside in the afternoon, at least according to Mommy, so your sister has started getting impatient waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt like it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. And suddenly, a light came across Lizzie's big brown eyes, and her smile spread wide across her face, having an idea for her new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outside anyway. They're always inside telling everybody they're too busy to play.
Why?
Why?
Duh.
I said why. And it'll be fun, duh. What do they do inside that we don't, besides use the phone a lot? Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decides to ignore Cove.
What do you think?
Viola, what do you think? What do you want to do? Cove said it doesn't sound fun. Come on. Neither of you had a single idea all day. I thought Lizzie wasn't about to give in at any time. Fine. With the victory against Cove under her belt, Lizzie turned to you, triumphant. I hope this is as fun as you're promising it'll be. Lizzie looked at you, deadly serious. It'll be it's the most exciting idea I've had all week. And that doesn't really bring much confidence now, does it? Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you. Okay, I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Viola, you and Cove could be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. And we have to play sports as adults? Yep. There are other kinds of sports too. It isn't the same. What do you think, Viola? Don't the choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? No. Isn't there anything else we could be? Lizzie stomped her foot on the ground. No, come on, just decide already. Knowing Lizzie's gonna let up anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it. He thought over the list of possibilities, beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Of all of them, you decided to play. She can't do any of those. Probably tennis. Remembered Mommy had a couple of old tennis rackets lying around somewhere, but you forgot where you had seen them last. You could check out the attic for them, although Lizzie probably wouldn't let you run off and do that when she has you here. Yes, it's clearly the top option. I guess I'll be a tennis player. Alright! Who are you, Cove? Pick volleyball. Should've known. Okay. So, Viola, you're a famous tennis player, and Cove, you're a popular beach volleyball team. Cove is the whole team? Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms out wide. We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted his glasses on his nose. It's really specific. That's what makes it fun. Anyway, Lizzie marched back and forth in front of both of you, and you lost in your own imagination. I won all gold medals, and people are calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned to him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is, it's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Cove, your team was bronze, and Viola, you barely missed out on gold and got silver. How come Cove is bronze? Rude. It's more real if we're not all first place. You do better than silver. Cried out Lizzie, unhappy at the decision. Viola's right.
Sorry.
Once people lose at the Olympics, them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. This was taken back by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way! Wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took the golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit the invisible ball. And what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd live as an adult appealed to him, apparently, because he looked back at Lizzie with some of the anger fading. I'm going to live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking out her tongue. Kind of boring, we already have that. No, not like the normal houses here on the street. On it, right on the sand by the water. Just like that, all tension was back. Was back? Oh no! You hadn't had a chance to choose where you're gonna live. It's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on the beach of sand and shells, but I want to and I will. He narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood off a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Why are we even playing pretend if we can't imagine anything? Jeez, fine. Oh, jeez. I'm going to live in a mansion far away from here, far away from you. With an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golfing.
It's not fair.
How come you were yelling about mine when your idea is even more impossible? Mrs. face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her side. It is not impossible and it's better than yours. Disagreements always seem to crop up between the two of them when the two of them are together. I always felt like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand, this time you thought... Cove was right. Cove's idea is good. You can't say yours is the only right one. No one asked for your opinion. Cove granted you with a small nod, which is a rare amount of acknowledgement from him. You didn't think it was a big deal. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. You can still swim whenever you want where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything. Says you. Two of them scowled at each other. You're being unreasonable. I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make sense. It does. You have to be realistic. I said that, but you're not. You have no idea what's going to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you'd say so far had kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a reading card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed over to her, hanging out the hem of her skirt and poking her tongue out at Cove. Lizzie, Viola, it's time to get ready to go. Sorry you have to leave already, Cove. Your mommy said she'll walk you home, so you won't be left in the cold. He was glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go by myself. But, without giving Mom a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and stalked out of the room, shoulders drawn tight. Okay. Worried, Mom turned and looked down at you and Lizzie. You were playing nice with your new friend, weren't you? Told the truth. They were fighting, Cove and Lizzie, for the whole time. Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed, as Mom put both hands on her hips. Elizabeth! I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up. place with a tiny frown. I know I tried, but he was no buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hung her head, dragging her foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mom. Good girl. You got pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it's his fault too. But it was over. Alright, we better get a move on. Come on, kids. Noelani. Is that how you say it? Noelani? Where do you leave the car keys? Mom hustled you all out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. So you should be the first one to request which music to listen to in the car. She didn't say a thing. Parents noticed she wasn't in the mood to be bothered. They gave her space, and Mommy asked you what you wanted to listen to. Picked your favorite song, and it always made the car ride more fun. Which is a cool soundtrack from a cool movie you saw a couple months ago. You chose a song you knew Lizzie liked. Maybe that would cheer her up. We're happy to see it brightened her up right away. She started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. The car ride was over. You spent the twilight hour watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell that she really liked it. So you sat with your moms and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting together after being cooped up in the house all day. And you stretched out your legs to let the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping below the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your moms took your family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon you had been a bunch of shouting. You hadn't been able to stop. But you can kind of tell that it helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing escape from silence. Lizzie had been in better spirits now. The closer she got to your neighborhood, the more she wriggled in her seat and frowned out the window. She knew what was coming when you all got back home. Clearly, she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mom was turning onto our street and reversing into the driveway. When she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelt and opened their doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off their shoes, she propped her hands on her hips.
So,
Now then, Mr. Holden's car is in his driveway and he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes, and she nodded once. Good, let's move to the kitchen. Mom went over to the house phone, the rest of you following her. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. We watched it from the back. It's only happening because you told on Lizzie. It was her fault. You hadn't done anything wrong by telling the truth. It wasn't like Lizzie was going to say it on her own. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze at her feet. You remember the number to Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, solemn. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and began to dial. Mom reached over and pushed the button at the base. Suddenly you can hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple of times and stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening. Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove?
Absolutely.
Lizzie Bell? What a surprise. But of course you say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though it definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. You thought hard, and you were sure that your sister had never called Cove's house before. Mom spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, lips pursed. Hi, Cliff. Noelani, Viola, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. Said nothing to Cove's dad. You shifted from one foot to another, but remained where you were. Gang's all here, huh? Something matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mom was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove had a bit of a fight today. We're hoping that the two of them can talk and make up. Is it a good time for you and Cove?
What?
A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything like that when I came home. Daddy's feeling the funk he's been in tonight. He chuckled lightly. Despite that, it didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good you didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him. There was some shuffling on the other end. He must have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove! There's someone on the phone for you. To beat a silence, there was more muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie called just so she could talk to you. It took a bit of back and forth. The conversation seemed one-sided since you can't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad.
Hi.
Hello? Hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know, Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. A stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away.
Sorry.
I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. He must have realized that too because he sighed quietly. I want gold. Lizzie was momentarily stunned silent by that demand. You could understand why he did it. You wanted gold too. Alright, you win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. Just a relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. Eyebrows is what I said. All those eyebrows. He wondered if she thought that he'd refused her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You can't see him, but it was obvious that Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back to your room now. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye. When he said that, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left since Mr. Holden spoke up.
That's a relief.
As well as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. His mom replied. Lizzie tugged on Mommy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now,
Good
too?
job.
Sure, sweetie. Thank you very much for apologizing to Cove. Mom flashed a brief smile and Lizzie nodded her agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off toward the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to the phone, taking it off speaker. They continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. You're glad that was the end of it all. Lizzie and Cove might not get along, and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything is finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your room and with a spring in your step. With a sprung in your step. Let's see, what else do we have? We have to save. And go shopping. Come back before it gets dark, right, sport? A familiar voice drifted across the street and drew your attention away from the snail you were watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you first met Mr. Holden, though he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow. Maybe you made a noise, because a second later his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for being caught. You've got to learn how to be more sneaky. Pushed your hands together to free them from sand, and jogged over to join the two of them. Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today? Nothing. Check the pavement in front of you. It would be nice to tell them about the snail you found, but you didn't know if they liked snails. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holt's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had in a tiny rectangle. Sounds fun. It does. You weren't sure about that. You know, Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? You shrugged. Cove was in the process of making a similar motion. You didn't have anything else to do, and you haven't been to the stores in a few days. Maybe there was something new to look at. Maybe. Is that okay?
I guess.
I was going by myself, but I guess it is. You don't have to. Great! I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. He's like, by the way, you're going, and it doesn't matter if you want to or not. Okay, bye! Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet full with money. He found it odd, since your mom's only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. Here. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Here's something for your friend, too. Sure.
Good kid.
That's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightened back up. The bill in his hand still held out toward the green-haired boy. This man is just... I don't think he's a card guy. I think he is a cash man. If that makes sense. Like how there's different types. So for example, like I mostly... No, I shouldn't say that. Hold on. Let me think about what I'm trying to say. So there are some people that are like, I cannot have any kind of cash on me. Like, no, absolutely not. Stolen and whatnot. And some people are like, I absolutely cannot have a card on me. Could get stolen and whatnot. There are some that are in the middle, but most people lean from one to the other. I think that's what's going on here. Take care. Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then one last nod to his dad and he turned and started walking. He followed after him, intrigued at the possibilities this outing might bring. Cove strayed toward the gentle tide creeping up the sand and you fell into place beside him. It was a nice day, the sun was shining and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. He took a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. He noticed at Cove he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and he slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. Think of shells? Cove startled a little at the sound of your voice and mumbled sort of. If you see any, you'll let me know. You can manage that. You dropped your view to the sand, walking carefully so you don't step on any. You're good friends with shells. Oh, you're good friends with shells, what I said. You're good at finding shells is what it actually says. You had a lot of them at home, and always found new ones whenever you visited the beach. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times. Though Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. What do you want to go to the shops for? I need a new sand pail. Yeah? What happened to your old one? Cove narrowed his eyes, seeming to think deeply for a second.
Whoa.
It disappeared. What, really? Cove ducked his head down, placing his fingers behind his back. It didn't seem like he was going to continue, so he nudged his arm. How did that happen? Well, Cove opened his mouth and shut it again, considering. Took it to the beach one day. Uh-huh. When I got home, it wasn't anywhere. You left it there? Nope. It wasn't at the beach when I went back. And you lost it! It disappeared.
So...
How about you? What do you do out here? I like looking at the fish. They don't like me, so they always swim away if I get too close. But they're pretty before that. Ooh, starfish are fun. They aren't going anywhere, even if you touch them. A small laugh escaped you. That's true. Here's the shopping area. Noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying a lovely summer day. The call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind. A lot of salespeople trying to get attention. Sniff the air as you walk beside Cove. You can still smell the ocean, but there are other scents now too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. Ew. It's not very nice. There's too much of everything, but you weren't going to leave yet. And Cove would definitely want to look around for at least a while. That's what he came to do today. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other, with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work on. What's that? Cove pointed at a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with a large colorful umbrellas blooming in the middle. You couldn't see it past the adults that were blocking the way, but you knew there must be something worth seeing. Under the word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. It's the amazing Alexander! Mr. Ross, the amazing Alexander. In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat and a funny green coat with 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him and a cloth hanging over it. That read "The Amazing Alexander" in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on the sign? No problem with understanding. You turned to walk away just as the great Alexander began shuffling deck cards. You bit your lip, reluctantly starting to follow after Cove again. You continued looking over your shoulder, however, wanting to see as much as you could before you got too far away. Hey! Not watching where you were going proved to be a bad idea as you bumped right into Cove. Sorry. Did you want to stay or something? If that's okay. He briefly lifted his arms up from his sides before returning them to place. Could have said so. With that, it began. The magic man pulled one card out of the deck, showing it to curious onlookers. It was 4 diamonds. Watch closely! You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers that got a better view. Then the man snapped his fingers and the card just disappeared. Oh. The amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind of smile. It was behind your ear. He backed away. It was enough to deter him, and the crowd of people gathered behind you, making it impossible to move any further. It smelled like popcorn and candy as he stepped closer. You swallowed anxiously. Felt a tug. Then you pulled the 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. You knew it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he had done it. There was a loud applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The magician plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin instead of being a small circle. Oh, for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Wow. Now you're really grateful he chose you. After he went to someone else from the crowd. Pick a card, any card. My uncle does this every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with the cards. Cove spoke plainly, while reaching over to take the balloon that had been designated for him. At least you had a fun time. Some magic trick and you got a great balloon. It's more than enough to make it a worthwhile event. You thought that if you could find a card to practice with, maybe you can make it disappear too. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed in the side of it the whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. Kaleidoscope, Rubik's Cube, 8-ball, walked past the toys. Oh, past. Briefly carefully looked over the rack of toys, thinking that they could be interesting to look at. But you didn't really feel in the mood at the moment. Cove picked up one of the kaleidoscopes and looked through it, twisting the tube at the end. After a second, he set it back on the rack, moving to the other side of the stall. He went under the awning, careful of his floating dolphin, and you joined him. Do you have a place like this in your old town? Cove blinked at you for a moment, and you wondered if you shouldn't have asked. You knew how much you missed that place. Not really. You nodded in understanding, looking over the stalls nearby. Oh, look at the babies! Oh, look at the sharks! They're so cute! Oh my god, I love the sharks so much. Oh please, allow me to get a shark. Oh wow. Well, Cove looked over the sand pails. You were drawn to the table with colorful keychains laid out. They were sewn in the shape of sea creatures, and had a plaque that read, "Handmade," standing proudly in front. Lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, and a turtle. I like the shark. Your hands hopped on the shark. Gave you a smirk, filled its sharp teeth on its face. Is this devious? Does this qualify as devious? God, I love it here. I wish I was to go near sharks in real life, but there was something about this shark you liked. The fabric on his back was soft when you picked it up. Hell yeah, baby. You were instantly enamored. Hell yeah, baby! Checking out the price though, your heart sank. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought it was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill in your name. Is that what you want? Huh? Oh, $6. I didn't bring any money.
Alright.
That's fine. You don't have to. Cove didn't mind it. He took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He's holding a small yellow bucket for himself, too. My dad told me to. A little nervous, but happy with your purchase nonetheless. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you, too. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out of the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around in the air. Watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. Hey, Cove. Yeah? Thank you for getting it for me. Okay. It's not clear if you really appreciated your things or not. What? You're going to thank him for the keychain again. Considering he only did it because Dad told him to, it probably didn't matter. It was an eyebrow, but didn't push the issue. He looked further down the street, where different food carts were lined up. You could see his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light grumble. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all the wandering around, you're definitely ready for some lunch. Get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around for a short while, looking at all the delicacies that were available. Everything looked delicious. And as the different smells, both sweet and salty, wafted over to you, your stomach growled even louder. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. I've got something sweet and cinnamony. You got a chocolate one. You looked at your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. It had tiny marshmallows on it and was dipped with chocolate, just how you liked it. Your moms didn't like when you ate too much sugar, but it was a special occasion. You found an empty table close enough to the beach, and the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you were dragging your chairs out to sit down. These balloons are going to make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table and stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. You put him out to agree, and then an idea hit you. I know. After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere where it couldn't get sandy, You took the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist. Oh. Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled satisfied. Could you help me too? I can't tie it on my own wrist. He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast restraining his fingers on one hand and the string already tangled around the other.
Okay.
Got it. The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork. Both hands are now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you looked out over the ocean. After a time you finished your pretzel, you were done before Cove. He was probably not having anything to do. Hold on to the string of the balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. And you turned to face toward the beach. It almost looked as if it was swimming on the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. Jerk. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining bits of his pretzel on the wrapper and he was gripping his dolphin too. Mine is a Merryweather. He's the prince of the dolphins. Story movie. She's actually an alien. I love them all. Yeah. Come on, Splash. Their trainers use fish and treats to help them perform tricks. The most famous dolphin in the world. He sighed, wishing you could start a movie with a real-life dolphin. What's yours? Cove considered the question. Placing the balloon against the table, resting his free arm across it in contemplation. It's... No! With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. Oh no. For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock like you. His cheeks puffed up, squinted his eyes, and you saw tears start to glisten. Here's the balloon. Take out my balloon. Instead, if you want it. I looked over to you, frowning. I don't want yours. Oh. Goodbye for Cove. We're secretly glad. You liked the little dolphin, and weren't too eager to give it up. You spent the rest of the outing sniffling. You didn't say much else. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. And then the two of you were headed back late in the afternoon. You separated on the beach while Cove went straight home with his brand new sand pail in hand. You decided to sit for a while. Watch the waves in the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been nice for the most part. Hopefully there won't be any tears next time. That's the end of step 1. And then summer ended. We never get tired of the view. You stood beside your moms and Lizzie as the four of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You like to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. It was a fun day. I didn't know they had magazines on the shopping street now. And neither did I. Oh no, we're so dull. Let's get out more. You didn't do real magic, Mom. How did you figure that out? I know. It's not magazines, it was magicians! Are you fucking kidding me? Hold on. Oh my god, it was magicians! I can't read. No, my hidden shame. I have such a hard time reading. It's fucking bullshit. Oh, Lizzie, dear. There are all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mommy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. Well, we can't sit here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately led her to her room. Mom, summer's almost over. Protests were obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that any other day. You may not want to, but you plan on going home. Mom looked down at Lizzie. She sighed as she continued pleading. We'll help with dinner tomorrow.
Please.
Soon we'll have homework and reading to do. We could do work now, too. Lizzie made her case that stopped her foot on the ground. Well, come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. Mommy leaned in for a hug, and you knew that Lizzie was very close to victory.
Okay.
Alright. As soon as it is ready, you lot are coming inside, understood? Yes, Mom. Ha! So much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get the seashell bracelet from Tins and Trinkets. Ooh, or maybe the playground. Or fireflies would probably be coming out, right? Silently made your own plans. Lizzie had her ideas of what she wanted to do. But what were you going to do? Strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself. Does the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off the direction your mother's had gone. Where are you going? Go to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off toward the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she had disappeared off down the road. I'll stay outside. Watch Lizzie run off, twisting your lips as you consider what to do. In the end, the pretty sky and the soothing sound of the waves won out. You straight off the path, grinning at the field stand, quickly filling the empty space of your flip-flops. It was fun for a while, but you grew bored eventually. Who else could enjoy the remainder of your time at the beach? You looked for seashells. You walked the shoreline, peering at any debris that had washed up. So it was just seaweed, rocks, and trash. Though now and then you'd spot a seashell. You looked at the ones that stood out to you until you had a nice little collection. It was a great evening, but soon enough you had your fill and were ready to join the rest of the family back home. Not too much further down, you spotted a familiar green head of hair moseying along the shore. See what Cove was up to. Curious, you strayed off your path and walked over to him. Cove knelt down, picked up something you quickly identified as smooth rock. Rode his own back, tossed it into the water. Impressed. Cove stopped a little, and you let out a small giggle. Sorry. What are you doing here? I asked first. Cove frowned, looking back at the waves. Not a anything, just thinking. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you're pretty sure you couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face. It's not fair. I had to wear this cast for ages. I can't even swim. When do you get off? Cove shrugged and didn't say anything. For a second you thought maybe he didn't know. But finally he sighed. A few weeks. That's not very long at all. It wasn't too bad, you thought. At least he'd be able to play normally at recess. And you sometimes got to go swimming during the school year. So maybe he could make up for lost time then. Cove let out a huff, plopping down on the sand. I can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement. Regardless of the sudden topic change. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. I'd ask us to think about that. So why don't you want to go? It's nice as far as schools go. I've only ever been to one school, which is true that his old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, he did have to make new friends, meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knees as he drew the close to his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you got a good look at his face, you realized his eyes were wet.
I want to
I want to go home. You weren't sure what to do. Felt weird to just leave him here crying. What else could you say that could help? Frowned a little, starting to stand. Okay, well bye then. Cove gave his head a small shake. I don't want to go back home. Alright, Cove wanted to go back to his old home. The one that sat waiting someplace far away. You know, the one he would bring up whenever he felt sad. It'd been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. Settled back down on the sand, tried to consider what to do. This could be your home. It's a really nice home if you give it a chance. Cove didn't respond to it. He tightened his arm around his knees, resting his chin on them. You're not gonna leave, right? You'll still be around. The question was a little surprising. Yeah. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Let's get the cast off. We could go swimming. We were fine with him changing the subject again. Okay. He had to say swimming did sound fun, even if it was already getting chilly out. Cove smiled and looked back at the waves. And I keep saying I'll get used to everything eventually. That I'd feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to anything. He spared a glance over at Cove, and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all, as long as I really do feel better. They can't see it. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. Austin thought. You started a bit where you heard a faint, familiar sound. Sound of your mom shouting your name. Over your shoulder, you realized it was probably time for dinner. Had you guys been sitting out here that long? You set up a desk and stand off yourself. Mom's calling, it's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked up at you, expression screaming reluctance, and eventually, okay. When you smiled, Cove returned it with one of his own. The two of you couldn't stay there in your own little world any longer. You were being called forward. So both of you ran off toward your house, leaving the waves and summer behind. In between. Yeah, that's my girl! Honestly, she'd look the same. Still nervous, but I think a fondness. Cause she's just a nervous person in general. Iris is. I forgot to mention, I'm doing this based off my D&D character. So she always has a nervousness. She also has a fondness now, I think. Customize! Choose to customize codes yourself, or let his prior experience is to determine it. I don't want to do that. You know what? Balls to the wall. Here we go. August ended, September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. It was like a sign Cove will be staying in Sunset Bird for a while. At school, he was alright, but he kept his distance from the other kids. From what you saw, anyway. Originally, he treated you like everyone else, passing by as if you didn't even know each other. But as the years went on, the two of you acknowledged each other more and more. Your friendship was starting to grow. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. We heard your parents talking about it, saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you worried that meant bad news. It had made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant Cove would keep living with his dad. He wouldn't only stay with his mom a few weeks a year. Cove cried too, for different reasons you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again. Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He said he didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. You weren't sure how well it worked in changing Cove's thoughts on the town, yet it must have been a part of the reason you and Cove ended up growing close. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what had changed. Still, you worried about him. You could tell that he wasn't completely happy. Maybe one day, he could say out loud how he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal. He said what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed, and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. Toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your home had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes too. Cove's cast got taken off. I would hope so! After years, I would hope that the cast got taken off. Jesus. You would have seen without it initially. Oh my god, like imagine you just have a cast for years. That would be awful. Underneath his pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that streaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out with pride when someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In the class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did in gym and other athletic situations. Over the years, he began opening up more. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbors from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mom moved back south because of her work. Just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks. But nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. You will learn some heartbreaking things. Became less sad the further away they are, even if they had never gotten any better. That was sad on its own. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house and all, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple. Oh, she's going by Ma now. Wanting something new. And liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her Mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for that. Lizzie felt too mature for her nickname, too. She insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so you did. Your moms soon gave her permission to go places other than the playground and the shopping street, which she took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more and more with girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. you started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. You didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was, he and Cove's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up in the area now and then. It seems Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along to his work, if Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed, in small and big ways. You had too. As time went by, though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Before you knew it, school was over and summer vacation had come again. Yes, the blues, baby, the blue! It was the first day of summer vacation. Sun was as hot as ever, but you were inside and away from the harsh rays. But more specifically, you were snuggled in bed, celebrating your time off by sleeping in. It was hot. You still had a blanket up over your head to block out the sun. You didn't want to be intruded in a lazy morning. Unfortunately, you weren't prepared for an intrusion. Beneath the blanket, you heard the door creak open. Hi, Elizabeth. Still sleeping? Wow, get up. Morning. Morning. Now get up. I will come over there. So much for a lazy morning. Mom told me to tell you that your friend's at the door. You brought some happy summer gift from Mr. Holden. Mom wants you to take it from him. Say thanks or whatever.
Come on.
No, come down already. Be right there. Elizabeth said nothing and turned left, having done what was instructed of her. You rolled out of bed, stretching your arms up and yawning. Time to get ready. You sat yourself in front of the mirror in the far corner of your room. Looking how they fit the frame, your very tall reflection went over the whole length of the mirror. You're pretty tall. Reflection fit comfortably in the frame. A lot of real estate in the frame. You're very short. Over the whole length of the mirror. No, she's tall. You can relate to Cove and how it felt to be unusually big. He was one of the rare fellow 13-year-olds whose height was a match for your own. I liked your height. It suited you well in your mind. Then you put the finishing touches on your outfit while rummaging... what? Ruminating? On the situation. Carelessly as they had ever been, Elizabeth's words piqued your interest. You planned on going over to see what Cove was up to, so this worked in your favor. Reflection grinned back at you, and you were looking forward to seeing him. You left your room, resting a hand on the railing as you went down the stairs. Step 2, second chance. Second chance on what? Spotted Mom first, reclining on the couch. She had a magazine in her hands, which she was perusing. Morning, Mom. Looked up at your greeting, a smile instantly appearing on her face.
Thanks.
Morning, Viola. Thanks for coming down. Mom's at the door with Cove. He can't stay over today, unfortunately. What are you going to think of before he leaves? You nodded and made your way to the front door. As she said, Ma was there making conversation. She must have heard you because she looked over her shoulder.
Oh.
Look, you finally made it. Morning, sleepyhead. Mom reached forward and you knew she was about to pat you on the head. She was taller than average for an adult woman, so you were still little in her eyes despite being big for your own age. You let her do it. You stood patiently and indulged your ma's wishes. She gave you 2 small taps on the crown of your head. You lost one down today, you know that? Sorry for the wait. Oh, there's no need for that. What matters is that you're here now. Small laugh, Ma stepped aside. It was just you remembered. Exactly how you came to know him to be. Hell yeah! Hi, Cove! He leaned uncomfortably to the side in your doorway, as his bushy hair covered part of his face. His features were pinched in embarrassment as he shifted from one foot to another. He was holding what must be the much talked about gift. At first glance, you figured it was a bouquet of flowers. Then you gave it a real look. No, instead it was carefully cut fruit. It made a lot of sense that they were actually from Cove's dad. You had to suppress a laugh at the showing. You couldn't imagine how many folks buying that sort of thing in their own personal enjoyment. That kind of arrangement was built for the presentation, likely to impress whoever was eventually going to receive it. It seemed like no matter how long he lived here, Mr. Holden would keep going out of his way to be neighborly, and Cove would always be roped into participating. Cove smiled slightly at the sight of you. The sting of his goofy errand, he was clearly embarrassed to be uneased. Hey, Viola. You earnestly grinned back. It wasn't weird at all. Like it was how it used to be when they were kids. As time passed, the two of you started to enjoy each other's company. Now you actually considered him a good friend, and not someone you were forced to be around by your families. Hey, it's really nice to see you. Yeah, you too. We were certain that he meant that agreement. It was already shaping up to be a long summer, plenty of time for the two of you to have fun together. His awkwardness over the task started to creep back in, so Cove nudged the gift closer to you. He was ready to be relieved of it. And with that, the gift was accepted. I hope you and your family like this. It's a pretty good gift. I think so anyway. He smiled earnestly. I spent a lot of time picking out the best size and design. There were so many options to choose from. Thank you. To you and Mr. Holden. I'll tell him you said that. Mr. Holden's behavior really was different from any neighbor you'd ever had. Although after 5 years, you were used to his antics. You've since made up your mind on what your opinion was. He's nice. You knew he wasn't completely perfect, but he always seemed to try hard for the sake of others. Your thoughts were quickly replaced by a shout. There you are! You shared a confused look with Cove. As one, you both stepped through the open door into the neighborhood street. It wasn't long to locate the source of the noise. You spotted Derek, just a few yards down the road. He ran up to you. Confused. You didn't expect to see Derek today, though you never really knew when he'd appear. After stopping a couple of steps away, Derek hunched over to catch his breath, and you looked up with a wide grin.
Hey.
Hey, guy and pal. Or guy and gal. Whatever. I was just at your house, Cove, but no one was there. I should have figured you were at Viola's place. Do you ever spend your time at your own house, or always just over here? Derek laughed at his own joke. Yeah, they didn't notice that it embarrassed Cove, but the embarrassment was what he was actually laughing at. Derek turned to you. He was going to say more, and his eyes widened and he gasped. What's that? You followed his gaze unsure, then realized what he meant. We're still holding Mr. Holden's gift. This? It's kind of like a bouquet of flowers, but it's made out of fruit.
Nice.
Nice, can I have some? I haven't even tried any yet. He proud out your words, not hiding his disappointment. Aw. He nodded his head, as if to be clear. Anyway, that's right. I came here because I needed to say something big. He paused, probably for effect. There's some other kid here at Sunset Bird. I was as surprised as you were by the news. Such a reaction made sense. No one around your age has moved here since Cove did 5 years ago. Were they with their family? Maybe they were cutting through. Nuh-uh. The new kid was all by himself, just walking. Did you talk to him?
Nope.
Nope. I came to report the sighting right away. The kid had green hair, glasses, was pretty small, and seemed really upset by something. Hope he didn't leave. He blinked. Slowly, you looked over at your longtime neighbor. That sounds a lot like you, Cove. When you first got here, anyway. Kinda does, doesn't it? That's weird. He sounded almost fawn, a small smile playing on his lips. Dick snickered good-heartedly. I can see that really well, now that you say so. But what do you say? Let's go find Cove's look-alike. We should all meet him.
Sure.
I'll do it. Sure, I want to see who this person is. Dick grinned, then he pointed down the street the way he came. As I saw him, the mystery visitor was going in this direction. Nothing else needed to be said. The three of you went off with Derek leading the way. Derek brought you to the beach, and as the trio you made your way down the shore to the old playground. You walked the familiar path in a comfortable silence. You're almost done when you spotted the kid in question. His bright colors almost shone like a beacon beneath the rays of sun. He scuffled around, kicking the sand as he paced. And it was true. He clearly seemed upset. But you didn't think he was sad, like you had originally pictured. No, with his erratic movements and switched up expression, he came off angry. You become uncomfortable at the idea of talking to the stranger now. You don't want to bother him when he's in such a bad mood. Dirk didn't feel the same. He waved wildly, calling out to the boy. Hey guy, over here! The kid whipped around, an impressive scowl carving deeper on his face. His eyes were tired, and a strong hostile energy still radiated from him. What? What is it? What do you want? Sharp tone made Derek flinch. He shifted on his feet. What's your name? Jeremy. Is that it?
No.
Nah, I'm Derek. This is Viola and Cove. We were just walking around and saw you. Want to say hi? There aren't a lot of kids our age in the neighborhood. Yeah. So, you know, it's cool to see someone else here. Usually, Jeremy grew furious by your response. If steam could erupt from a person's ears, it would have happened then. They did bring me something stupid. Of course, I knew it. What?
My parents.
My parents, they're the ones who brought me here. I didn't walk to this town. Can you not figure it out on your own?
Right.
Right. My dad brings me to Sunset Bird too. When he has to come to work and stuff. It's not bad. That earned him a glare from Jeremy. Derek winced beneath it, glancing away. It was a struggle to remain friendly to this Jeremy guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to come here on a real vacation probably either. Derek. It's an understatement. It doesn't count as vacation. It's a waste of time, a chore. My parents' family is nearby, and we just had to come see them. Ugh. Your parents' family? Doesn't that make them your family too?
Yes.
I guess! That's a pretty good reason to come by. Did you want to go somewhere else? No! He crossed his arms with a huff, and turned away. They should have come by themselves, since they cared so much and left me at home. But I'm not allowed to be by myself. Pfft. Makes sense. They're the ones who don't know how to do anything, and I'm the kid. Fuck this guy. Okay. So I'm gonna end the episode here because I don't want to talk to him anymore right now. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.